Welcome back to Backyard Cars, and today, well, we're gonna start getting the axle ready and stuffing it in the Motley Carlo. So, we'll get over here and start by cleaning the old girl. Alright, well, as you can tell, we got her on our fire pit cleaning space. We hose off all the old grime that we can. Then we're gonna use some totally awesome cleaner. That's what it's called. Totally awesome. And of course it says don't use on anything, wood, concrete, charcoal, nothing. So we're going to do this, just hose it down. I'm not using the drum, so I really don't care about those. We got to get all the grease degreased. What? This is a horrible cleaner. I should probably have gloves on to keep it from getting on me, because it's alkaline based. Probably not good for any of this stuff. They say you can just spray it on and wipe it off. I don't believe them. Should probably just pour it on. I think that's what I'm gonna do, to be honest with you, because this will take forever. I mean, what in the world? Need this in a pump sprayer. Supposed to let it sit or something? Nope, it says immediately clean it off. So, we're gonna do the right thing and let it dry on there, apparently. Let me find a screwdriver. Let's just see what 25 years of gunk looks like on there. Oh, yeah. That's great. I think it's going to require a lot more than just one coating here. I really should have busted out the pressure washer, huh? It may still be an option. I don't think I've ever seen an axle with this much gunk on it. I've seen stuff sit in the junkyard 30 years and look better than this. Will the hose anything off? Doesn't appear so. Let's get you in here. I'm gonna have to say that there's nothing totally awesome about this. And it literally isn't taking anything off. Everything has come off because I scraped it off. Definitely need to be pressure washing on it, I guess, huh? That makes a mess. I mean, stuff shoots back at you. I don't want to put on safety goggles, because I don't want alkaline in my eyes. I mean, I can completely tell you that much at least. I know that I'm just procrastinating on the inevitable, is that we're definitely gonna have to pressure wash and shoot all this stuff in my face. Somebody's got some HP. I'm gonna be here for months, trying to scrape and spray and scrape and spray. So we got rain coming, but I'm getting the pressure washer. We're gonna try and make quick work of this junk. Quick work, I tell you. So, BRB. Now time, you know what time it is. The sun and then rain, so we got rain coming. So that'll give it a good rinse, right? Alright, let's get in here and see what we got. Whew! I got just a little bit wet and mucky, and well, there's a little bit of chemicals on me, but we got it cleaned up enough where we can get in here now and do some wire brushing and some painting. And oh, I missed some spots. Son of a gun. Well, like I said, we can get in here with a little more degreaser and some wire brushing and get her handled. But we got some numerical digits up in there and up in here and right there, and I was hoping there was going to be a tag on here, but apparently no tag. And we used, you know, some bathtub silicone to put the gasket on. I mean, why buy a gasket? You know what I'm saying? Just go down to the back and grab your bathroom silicone. And somebody's got some HPs. I'm hearing them. They're wanting a piece of me, I guess. They're like, hey, I know he's back there. But we got some digits we're gonna run. I got the majority of that stuff off, you know. There's some digits up in here. I gotta get a pen and paper and write them all down, and then of course we're gonna take this cover off because, well, we want to know what gear is in there, and I'm assuming it's an open chunk. Oop, my brakes appear to be locked up, so that's good. Yep. All right. Don't tell nobody, but I'm semi-pro. I mean, I scored a couple touchdowns in high school. Oh, they're not locked up. One's turning, so it's an open diff. Okay. Well, we knew it was open diff. It came in a Malibu. I mean, the Malibus didn't have posi track. But, you know, we were hoping. Alright, let's let the rain pass, because it's coming. And we'll get back to disassembly. That's my least favorite part. But we gotta do it. Disassembly, wire brush, replace, reassemble, stick into the vehicle. But at least she's clean. Alright, let me get a pen and piece of paper and I'll be back. So, everything's all cleaned up now and dried off. And this is what we got. It's a 10 bolt. It is not an 8.5, as you can see the curve here. 8.5 would have little ridges off of both sides here, so it's got an 8.5 cover, you know, on an 8.2. And I ran a casting number. It's kind of hard to see, but there's a casting number right here. And, well, that tells me it was made in July 30th of 72, and it has two 73 gears. And being how the rest of the car was factory, I'm gonna say that number has got to be correct, and that would put it as the factory axle for that Malibu. So I don't think I want to do anything inside of it because it's just an 8.2. It's not the 8.5. It's not what they call the Big 10. It's got 28 spline axles. So I don't know. Did we just put new bushings and clean up these arms and put them in the Motley Carlo and leave the welded diff in there and save on these inner axles in case we snap one? Or I don't, do we put the open chunk in and then try and get rid of the welded diff we got in hopes to find a Big 10 or a 12 bolt? I don't rightfully know. But I got to do something. My bushings, are no good. And all these are just coming out of the Monte Carlos. So I guess I'm gonna start to disconnect it. We're at least gonna put bushings in the A-arms, clean them up, and as I'm doing all that, then I'll decide what I'm doing here. Listen, I mean, I can barely keep traction with the posi that's in it. I could just imagine a one-wheel wonder. An open diff, I'd be just roasting one tire to smithereens. But I could weasel it around parking lots, and I have a problem doing that right now without... Now let's get to taking the A-arms off and at least figuring out that. Alright. Again, waiting on the rain. Let's try and grab them and get them inside real quick. Not inside, but under the cover of safety. That way we're not getting wet. So, here they are. We're gonna have to clean them up, obviously. And we'll probably get the ball joints out first, or the control arm bushings out first. Then we'll wire brush on them, spray them up with some rust reformer. I was thinking about plating the bottom to kind of box them in, make them a little stronger. Even though the Motley Carlo doesn't have a whole lot of HPs, we can box those in and make them much stronger than they are. Alright, let me get set up to start knocking bushings out. What a pain in the butt sometimes, but it sure beats drilling it out. You know what I'm saying? When you get it down to there, it should just tap right out. That's one. There we go. And then a little tap and she should come right out. What a pain in the butt. But that's the lower controls, and it's the reverse process. If you bend these ridges a little bit, you can always just set it somewhere and, you know, tink them back into shape. So, I've already, you know, wire wheeled the other control arms, and I'm going to finish this one now so we can get them all painted up. And I'm using rust reformer. I know some people are like, hey, you should have sandblasted them, but I'm going to spray them with rust reformer. And rust reformer requires, you know, a little bit of surface rust on it in order for it to activate whatever science is in it to harden into the epoxy. So that's what we're doing. And well, I'll probably speed it through that, but here we go. And then some of y'all are like, hey, fella, you're wearing sandals doing that? But I'm in Florida, and this is Florida work attire. See, originally, I was going to box this in, just put a plate on it. But then I got to thinking about it, and well, if I just plate it, I can never put a sway bar on these arms. Not that I know if I want to or not, but I could never do it if I wanted to. And of course I could try and guesstimate on where the sway bar holes should be, probably like right there. But again, I don't have all the proper stuff to do it just yet. So I'm gonna refrain from doing the boxing in for that one reason. But for another one is that, well, from the factory, these are actually designed to twist a little bit. You know, when this axle side drops and that side's up, well, this frame rail is meant, this control arm is meant to twist a little bit and kind of absorb some of that twist. And if I box this in, well, then we're putting the pressure on this mount and this mount. And that's going to wear out those bushings a little bit faster. And sure, we could use polyurethane bushings or those graphite or whatever them other fancier ones are. But then now you got no twist in the control arm and no give in the bushing. So now you're putting all your force on your frame mount or, you know, on the axle mount or that axle mount if you're doing the uppers. And metal doesn't give, so if we're flexing back here, eventually that's going to crack, or if we're flexing on it up here, eventually that's going to crack. And I started thinking about it, and I, well, you know, I know for this situation, these lower control arms probably don't flex as much as the uppers do. The uppers, when that axle's twisting, you know, them upper ones they're twisting pretty good. And these, like I said, these control arms are they're designed so they got a little, I think they call it deflection. They got a little deflection in them. So if I was going to road course this car, well, you don't want any of this stuff given. You know, what do they call that? Pro touring. But I don't plan on doing that. It's a Monte Carlo, and when you think of Monte Carlo, you don't necessarily think of corner hugging, you know, drivability. It was a gentleman's muscle car. I mean, a Monte Carlo is for cruising, maybe take it to the drag strip. So in our case, and we're not pro touring this thing, I don't really see a benefit in doing all that. I see negatives. Negatives and money spent that probably doesn't need to be spent. So I think I've talked myself out of that. Because it's just more hassle in the end, I think, than what it's worth. Now we are planning on, you know, just drag and drive the Monte Carlo. And so we need it to just drive down the road good to each place and then make some straight shots down the drag strip. And in that case, I don't necessarily need a sway bar, or do I need these to be boxed in, because the force is really straightforward and there's not much deflection up and down in this. It's a twisting motion that it allows. And that's, you know, whipping through the curves. These will flex a little bit. So I don't see. I mean, you could type into the comments there and tell me where I'm wrong, but I just think it's wasted money. And I know everybody, they get their car and they say, oh, I need to do this and this and this to the suspension. If I was going to go out and road course this thing, or my idea was that I want to hug corners around the windy back roads, well, maybe boxed in, you know, trailing arms and sway bar and all that, that's probably necessary to really get some handling out of her, but that's not the case. So I think I've just decided that I'm going to put new bushings and paint these up, new bushings, and we're going to put them into the Monte. And I was going to use this axle because it's an open diff, and right now mine's welded. And I thought about that, and I thought, well, an open diff, they're both 8.2s. They're not really, they're not good axles, you know? They're kind of weak. 8.2-inch 10 bolts. So I don't know if I want to go through the hassle of rebuilding this axle or freshening it up, you know. It needs bearings and seals. And then I got to take the drum brakes off, and I got to do all that, take the discs off my car and put this, it's a lot of work. And then I got an open chunk, and sure, I can pull in through parking lots and, you know, cruise it around town better. But then when I go to the track, well, you ain't launching with one wheel. It ain't gonna happen. You're just gonna smoke that one wheel right all the way down the dang track. So I don't drive the car every day. So you just keep being careful with the tight turns, I think, and what's the worst case scenario with the welded diff? I blow the diff out. Well, I got an axle. I got a whole axle here. I can just throw it in then. Or, you know, maybe you snap an axle since they're welded. Maybe you snap one of them 28 spline axles. Well, I just slide one out of here and slide it back in there. And we'll keep on trucking. So in the end, and this is where you get proper preparation, in the end, I just don't think it's worth my time or money to box them in or fix this axle. You see what I'm saying? So we're not going to do it. What I'm going to do is go brake clean all 4 of these control arms that I've wire wheeled. We're going to brake clean them, wipe them down, let them dry. Then we'll probably come back with some high alcohol content window cleaner or something and wipe them down again to make sure they got all the junk off. And then we're going to make them brand new with some rust reformer, which will activate with this little bit of surface rust that's left on here. And they'll be like epoxy coated. And then we'll probably squirt them down with some flat black enamel to give a little extra protection. And put the bushings back in. And just be happy that there's new bushings and I'm, the rear end ain't walking all around. And then enjoy the car. I bought those bushings at the flea market, $10 for all of them. I couldn't. So 2 cans of spray paint, they're like $10 a piece. I got $30 in the rear end, as opposed to doing all this other stuff and have a couple hundred in it. It don't make no sense at all. So I just thought I'd walk you through that, and maybe learn you something. It ain't, you don't, unless you care. I mean, if you're trying to show out for your buddies and say, I have QA1 boxed control arms, well, go buy them. But I don't need all that. I need what's right. What's going to work for what I'm doing with the car. I see too many people spend all that money on fancy stuff and they barely even drive the car. They never take it to the track. They never road course it. They just drive it to a car show and back. And they bought all that stuff for no reason. So these arms been in my 72 Monte Carlo for too many 40 years. I mean, more years than I can count right now. Almost 50 years. What are we at, 72? Yeah, 50 years. They're good. Why are we trying to swap them with something else? I mean, if they were good enough for GM, they're good enough for me. So let me change gears here and get them all wiped down and newed up. And we'll continue on. Budget minded, I tell you. We got them set up in the paint booth. They've been wiped down, with all the proper stuff and tack cloth and nope, just Windexed and wiped down. And they're dry, I think. And now we're going to spray it with the rust reformer and make them brand new. Reform them. And I know it's going to be a process. We're going to go a couple coats on each. Each one getting a little bit thicker. And if you want perfection, you can't rush it. You just, take your time. Make sure you rented your spray booth long enough. Try not to sweat on them. Look, if you're looking to try and impress the ladies, this probably ain't the way to go. But I'm married and got no one to impress. Besides myself. And I'm happy with it. Alright. We'll let that dry about, I don't know, 5 minutes. And then I'm going to flip them over and get a couple coats on the inside before I flip them back over and a couple coats this side. But in this Florida heat, I mean, it ought to dry pretty quick. So we're all done, and this kit has got these little rings that tells you to put them on. And I'm not sure why, but they'll tell you to use those. I haven't never seen them on anything, but I don't know, maybe when it's in the mount, there's a little more stability to it. I don't know, but that's our rebuilt control arms. You know, they're like brand new now. And that ought to pull all the wiggle wobble out of the back of the Monte. And the whole thing cost me 30 bucks. You know, 2 cans of paint and my $10 bushings. I couldn't believe I even found those, but I did. And we're in business. So we got to get out to the front and jack the Monte Carlo up and start replacing them one by one. And when I get to these uppers, I'll have to push the old bushing out of the axle and put a new bushing in, put the upper, do the same for the other side. I'm probably going to get new springs just to be sure that, you know, the rear ain't sagging on me. And some air shocks. That's the plan, at least. So here we are with the old air shocks out. Yep, that's our rear end. And we got new springs, isolator bushing, shocks, control arms. Well, refreshed control arms. And, well, we're gonna get it all up in here. I think I gotta match these springs to my new ones. And you know how it goes, just be sure. Let me set you up, I'll pop this one out real quick. You know this deal though. You just pop the shocks, you know what I'm saying? Drop the axle down, as low as it goes. A little tinky tank there, and they come right out. So let's match these up with my new ones. That thing looks a little bit twisted, huh? I'll search and make sure the isolator's on there, but that's the old spring. Got some new isolator bushings. And these are the new springs. Ooh, they look a coil bit taller, huh? It's gonna raise the back of this car up, it looks like. My old ones were sagged. Clearly. They were sagged. Nope. Maybe somebody heated them up, you know, making one of them high performance models that was lowered or something. Or maybe they're just old. I don't know. These are, of course, these are the Moog, made in the good old US of A. And part number 5379, if you fellas are looking. They say they're for all of the A-bodies. Pontiac, GM, Oldsmobile. They're going on the Chevelles, the 442s, all of them. Even the newer G-bodies, apparently. I don't know. That's what Moog told me. That's my replacement spring. Them old ones do look worn, obviously. So, the rear end of the old Monte Carlo is going to be a little bit taller. So, what I'm going to do is get both springs out and get everything cleaned up, and then I'm going to replace control arms one by one and get them bushings out of that center of the axle there and get new bushings in there. And then we'll put all the springs back in. And the new air shocks, of course, I got those too. And the rear end ought to be like brand new. You know what I'm saying? Alright, let me get set up. Alright, I popped that upper control arm out. Look how bad that bushing was. I gotta get up in there with the old extractor tool and extract it out. That's gonna be fun. Let's see if we can't set it up. Let me show you one of them. I don't think I'm gonna have enough room to get my gun up in there. We're gonna have to hand wrench on her. That's probably gonna be a workout. I can't see nothing. Here. All right, we got a little grease up in there, lubed up the hole. I will just try to set that in there as straight as possible and try to rig our tool back up again. That's probably not going to work. Well guys, yesterday the camera died and I continued on. The bushings fought me, but I got them in. Got the control arm, all three over here, two top and the bottom over there. Got all those in with the new bushings. We got to get this control arm replaced now. And then we'll move on to getting the springs in and the new shocks. And then we'll be ready to rock and roll. Let me show you the other side there. Kind of hard to see, but new control arm. Got the upper end. I mean, them boogers fought me. Them bushings right there, they fought me hard. But it's all back together now. They were horrible too. I'll show you. They're sitting over. When I get this one out, I'll show them to you. Cause, oh man, I've seen a lot of bad bushings. These here, they might have been originals. I had to spread that spring pocket of hair. I mean, look at that joker. Worn out. I mean, they are just trashed. Look how bad that one is. It's bad news. Here's all the parts, cross braces. Look at all them bushings were just trashed. I know you saw the springs were sagging. Now let's try and pop in our new control arm. I'm gonna have to spread that control arm pocket again. I know I am. This one is good. It's tight, but you want it to be tight. Can't get in there. I thought that was it. Alright, we got the control arms in, and now we're gonna do the springs, and I know I showed you. Look at the difference. I mean, this joker is taller. I mean, the old insulator, isolator, bushing, whatever you want to call it, it was completely done on this side. Of the driver's side, there wasn't even one on it. But, you know, the rear of the car was sagging pretty good, and these just kind of fell out. And you know, you should have to wiggle and twist on them, but I'm probably going to catch hell getting these in because they're much taller, and with the new bushings, that rear end don't want to hang as low as it was before. So we're going to try the passenger side first, flexing on it. Oh, we're going to get pretty close, huh? Can I put a cheek on it? Well, I'll be. Alright, well, that's one. I just put the jack on the other wheel and jack that spring up into its pocket there. Let's see how far we got to go over here. Right. Come on. I'm just a hair away. Can we get a foot on here? Here we go. Take that around. I mean, it's looking decent, I guess. Control arms and stuffs. So now we just gotta get our new shocks on here. Alright, so we got the other one on over here by jacking that side up, but I can't get this one to extend, so I went ahead and ran all the air lines and got us our patch here for our air, and I'm just going to put a little bit in here. Little air in here until we can get the end of the shock to extend and, you know, reach where we're trying to reach. It's going to be close. Nope, we're going past it now. Shit. They weren't counting on disc brake calipers back there when they made this kit. Yahtzee. Alright, new air shock runes, springs, control arm bushings, everything's in and tight. As tight as tight can be. Now we just gotta, jack the old girl up. Put the wheels back on it. Set her down and check the ride height. Yep. If all goes well, my axle won't fall out from underneath it. If I did everything I was supposed to do. Boy, that joker is sitting up much taller with no air in the shocks. Man, I tell you. Alright, we lost a couple inches, but we're still sitting up about 2 inches higher than before. Top of this fender was right at the tire. Now I got 2 fingers, so 1.5 inches of ride height, but no air shock. You know what I'm saying? So, well, we're gonna get it all finished up. Let me torquelize on the wheels and go from there. Well, there it is. Now we take her for a test drive. It's definitely lifted up about 1.5 inches in the rear. I put a little bit of air in there just to give it something. Let's see how she rolls. Like a brand new car, I hope. Camera check. Much better. definitely not. Put a rust on it. Never hurt nobody. There's no sinking to the rear either. It's a little bit stiff, but I would imagine that's the brand new springs. Well, that's going to do it for this episode. Appreciate you watching. Go down there and like and subscribe and, click in the comments and tell me what you think about the suspension. About, would you have done what I did, or would you have spent all that money on the tubular stuff? I don't have it. That's what it boiled down to. But we got to get on the front end now, since the back end's got good, suspension. Remember, go get something. Get it on the road. Do something with the junk in your yard. Don't let it sit. Take care.